Listen, we spoke yesterday on the show about the protests and how they massively overstepped the mark, but acknowledge that there is definitely something for United fans to be protesting about. So what next for Manchester United? What happens now? We're aware that they overstepped the mark, and those who were guilty of illegal acts, I think, should be identified and punished. And then you move on from that. So what now? They're clearly not happy with the owners. What does happen now?
Well, they never have been the way. This is not a new thing. Correct. I think the European Super League just highlighted it once again, the real anger that has been around Manchester United, the fans, for so long. We've been covering it for so many years. We talked about when Bex grabbed that scarf, wasn't it? When he went off in AC Milan.
Yep.
Played Manchester United.
Green and gold scarf,
the green and gold. So that went on. We've seen FC United have come out of it, which was set up by fans that had enough. We've seen fans talking about, don't buy your season tickets. That's not worked. Don't buy merchandise. That's not worked. Because the club are still making millions and millions, which the Glazers then can take out in dividends over the years. 6 of his kids now, since the main man passed away, 5 or 6 years ago. So the 6 of them can all take dividends out of that football club because they own it. And they have continued to do so. But I think let's get down to the point of this. This is just the tip of the iceberg, was the European Super League. But it's been going on for so long, and that's why we've seen so much more anger from Manchester United fans trying to disrupt the biggest game around, that is Liverpool against Manchester United, because of the ownership that's happened. And we've chatted about this before. The debt that is run at that football club, yes, they can afford to pay it, but it's growing all the time. And at one point, it looked like it was going to overstep the mark, wasn't it? But the Ronaldo thing helped them years ago. But they've always been able to pay for the debt year by year by year by year. But what Manchester United fans don't like, and rightly so, because they've never been in debt, is to be in debt by around £500 million. That is a lot of money for the turnover that Manchester United are rocking in year out. Yes, they can afford it, and a businessman will tell you that's how businesses are done in a lot of ways. But it's not the way Manchester United have done it, and not the way the fans have always known it.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Because you can't say anything illegal has happened here. This is what does happen.
This is what businessmen do, yeah.
However, that doesn't make it palatable, especially in a football sense, where you want it to be at least done with a little bit of heart and a little bit of soul as well. And this is where I think the Glazers go spectacularly wrong. I think that United fans, I totally understand why they're unhappy with the debt. What they haven't been in debt since what?
1930s.
The 30s, until the Glazers came along. Very well-run football club. And they don't really have to be in debt. They make so much money. It doesn't really have to happen. It didn't have to happen like this. But the point I was going to make is, I think it will be unpalatable for the United fans. This debt is totally unpalatable. However, it could be offset just a little bit. It'd be more acceptable if the Glazers were close to the fans, if they were close to the club, if they actually took an interest in it. I think the fans might say, well, listen, we hate being in debt. That's not the way. We want to get out of debt as soon as possible. But actually, they run the club really well. If they could say that, apart from the debt, they run the club really well and we like what they're doing, then I don't think it will be such a massive problem. But in so many areas, they get it so wrong. The only way forward I can see from this, I think the first step, I think the Premier League should get hold of this situation. I think the Premier League should ask for or invite the Glazers to a meeting and say, look, the fans aren't happy with what's going on here. So how about you try doing things this way, appoint this person to be a liaison with the fans so you've got regular communication and you can take input from them and you can tell them and communicate with them exactly what's going on at the football club. As a first step, building blocks to get a relationship going between the owners and the fans. Isn't that the best way forward?
Well, it is. And I think the fans have got a lot of questions, and that's why we see these big groups of fans who have had enough. I'm not saying they always go about it the right way, but everybody has got that right to demonstrate if they don't agree with something. I will not condone violence, as other people have done over this past 3 or 4 days, which is ridiculous. But what you said there, communication now in business, in life, is the biggest buzzword. And you have to communicate. And the lack of communication between the Glazers and the fans has been one of the main reasons. And it's the same. Look at Arsenal. What are the problems with Arsenal as well? Kroenke not wanting to communicate with the fans. It's just like, not interested in communication. And that causes that divide. And when the Glazers, as we've just said, have cost Manchester United 1.5 billion in interest alone since they bought the club, this is what upsets the fans. And I understand it totally. I remember when I started playing for England, we went to see Manchester United's training ground, and it was like the benchmark. It was the ultimate in training ground facilities. We were blown away. I'd never seen anything like it, been involved in cricket. And obviously when I was at football as a youngster, it was at Barnsley and Rotherham. I mean, you can't even compare. Suddenly you go to Manchester United's training ground and it's just like the recovery suite, the gym, everything about it was A1. You go to the ground, everything immaculate, the changing rooms, other room, director's room, everything. But now, they're in the middle of the pack now. You look at some of the other grounds and clubs in the Premier League, Manchester United are sitting in the middle. So it's not like they've kept on improving and kept way ahead of everyone else. Other teams, training grounds, facilities, medical centres, medical suite, everything about it have gone above Manchester United. Now, Manchester United are supposed to be the benchmark for all these clubs. They've always been debt-free, but now they're not.
Yep.
They're 500 million in debt.
And I think fans want an answer to the questions as to why they've gone down that table with the training ground, why Old Trafford is looking a bit tatty in places. What about the land around Old Trafford as well? They need answers to these questions, and the answers aren't forthcoming because the Glazers don't have a relationship with the fans. And to a certain extent, after all these years, there's no excuse for it. The Glazers should have realised, this is how English football works. Let's get stuck into it. Let's have a relationship with the fans. Let's have some meetings with them. Let's have some Q&As with them. They should have done all that by now. And they need encouraging to do that. And they need it kind of forcing on them, really, because English football is not like American sport. English football is about your lifelong emotional attachment to a ground, a club. And yes, grounds change. And some people aren't happy that grounds change and you know, some of them get knocked down and you move to a new ground. Look at the West Ham fans who were so upset about leaving Upton Park. Sometimes it has to be done. But they're attached to them. They're attached to the history. It's an emotional attachment. That's not even being acknowledged by the Glazers. That is not acceptable. And the Premier League surely should take hold of this and say, look, you have every right. You've not done anything illegal, but what you've done has not gone down well with the fans. You have to start a relationship up with those fans. It's way too late. 16 years this has been going on. And I think the fans, when they were protesting 16 years ago, these were champions then, Man United. These were dominant in Europe. They were champions. So it's nothing to do with a lack of success on the pitch. What they could see was this coming. The United fans could see under the Glazers it was going to deteriorate and get worse and worse. And there might have been the odd second place for Mourinho. There's a second place now. There's a Europa League win a couple of years ago. That's fine. And you can call that success if you like. And of course, winning a trophy is great. But the fans know that the club should be, playing at a higher level regularly. And they could see this coming under the Glazers.
Yeah, well, they could. And you could say they went through a period of lack of investment. Even the appointment of David Moyes, taking over one of the biggest football club, if not the biggest football club in the world, it will almost so well with trust Sir Alex, he can just appoint his mate. It's ridiculous the way that was done. I'm not saying David Moyes was a bad manager, but we're talking here about a club that have been run by arguably the greatest manager. And then suddenly, I tell you what, we'll take that gamble. It's changed. It's not like it was in the old days football and appointing managers. You know what I mean? You've got to appoint. If you're Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, you appoint the biggest managers in the world. Surely that's how it works.
Yep.
With a proven track record. That's what you would do.
So what's happened is the Glazers, on their watch, Manchester United have gone from being arguably the biggest club in the world to making second-rate decisions about the football club on and off the pitch. And that has not helped when it comes to how the fans feel about the Glazers. The big question is, we can analyse what happened at the weekend all you like. You can say, this pundit's right or that pundit's wrong. Well, all of that has been done. But what next for Manchester United? What are the fans asking for?